Let's take a look at a couple more practice problems using 1 point and the slope just to get more practice. Here we have a slope of 3, positive 3, so we kind of know the direction it's going to go. And we have a given point of -2, -6. Okay, so remember, all we do is rewrite this equation, isolating my y-intercept because that's all I need to solve for since I already have the slope. So this will be our equation. We just need to plug in our points. So -6 minus 3 times -2, right? We just plug in our y1s and our x1s and our slope. -6 minus 3 times -2, 3 times -2 is -6. So -6 minus -6, or -6 plus 6, just gives us 0. What does a y-intercept of 0 mean? Well, y-intercept of 0 means on this y-axis, it's going to intersect at 0. So it's going to intersect at the origin. One thing that's interesting, so our equation is y equals our slope 3x plus 0. So we just write this as y equals 3x. Now, whenever we have something that goes through the origin, because of the way the slope is defined as rise over run, right? It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive or negative. You can determine if you know a point, any point on that line, whatever the slope may be, you know that the y-intercept is equal to 0 if the slope is equal to the ratio of your x and y points on that singular point that you're given. Meaning, if I try to solve for the slope, rise over run, I can solve this as -6 minus 0 over -2 minus 0, if it was going through the origin, which it is, right? So -6 over -2 gives us what? 3. If that ratio and the slope match, then you're going through the origin. I can always change the slope, and then it wouldn't go through the origin, but if you have that, that's a quick way to check. All right, let's take a look at our second problem in this video. We have a point along our x-axis, and we have a slope of 0. Think back, I think we've talked about it in a couple of videos. What does a slope of 0 represent? Okay, and we'll solve this mathematically, and then we'll talk about conceptually. So we'll set it up the same way as we did before, right? So there's my point, there's my slope. I'm going to rewrite this equation into this form and plug in my x, y, and 0. So y1 is 0, slope is 0, x1 is -8. So again, 0 minus, the product 0 minus 8 gives us 0. So what does this mean? This means my y-intercept is equal to 0, or represents the origin again. So what is this equation? Since the slope is equal to 0, so this is just y equals 0. All right, what does this look like on the graph? You may not be able to see it very clearly. That's just this line along the x-axis. A slope of 0 represents a horizontal line, right? So both our examples in this video go through the origin, and there's unique ways to identify it. If you want to do the same check as we did in the first problem over here, you can, right? So what did we say? We said if the ratio of y over x is equal to your slope, then you're going through the origin. So what's the ratio of a point along the x-axis? Well, along the x-axis, y is always going to be equal to 0. So 0 over -8, that's equal to 0. So that does equal our slope. And so that confirms what we said earlier about it crossing the origin.